Well, welcome everybody. It's December 2024, and as I have convinced Mike in the past to do what we call a fireside chat, and this year you can see it's a tree-side chat, but I have Mike, and he's agreed to do our little year-end question and answer. So, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
It is the end of 2024.
Correct.
This was a year that was a really interesting year. We had the election, we had a bunch of other things happen. It wasn't quite what everyone expected. What are your thoughts on 2024?
Well, the interest rates the first 6 months of the year kept the business alive and growing and moving forward fast. And people, a lot of our good customers, made substantially more money than they anticipated because prices increased because inventory remained low. So, it was June, July when interest rates started edging up, and they hit as high as 7+%, when a lot of the sellers were at 2 to 3%. So the second half of the year was much tougher. Prices in most parts of North America started to hold back, and some started to slide. There's reports that the business is down 40 to 45% transaction count-wise. So it was, but everybody keeps comparing it to the year after COVID when we had the biggest year in history, and you can't compare anything that we're doing today or in the future to what happened after COVID, because COVID was a unique experience. So, our customers in most cases made more money than they anticipated because the average sales price went up so fast.
Right.
They didn't do as many transactions as they thought they would do, but they made more money. So it's a wonderful conflict to have. So it's been a very interesting year. The national election in the U.S. did not trigger a strong financial market for everybody. It was pretty flat as a result. Because usually, as you stated, when there's the national election, business picks up for 3 to 6 months prior to.
We all expected that it would, and usually, as you just said, with a national election, everybody is pumping up the economy and telling us how good it is, and that didn't happen this time. And yet, here we are now after the election. What do you think is going to happen as we go into 2025?
Well, first of all, I think if somebody, in this case, the new President Trump, if he doesn't reduce the interest rates, we're going to have a very probably challenging year. I think in 2024, this year, we're going to do about 3.7 million transactions in the U.S. plus our Canadian friends transaction count, and they were anticipating 4.3 to 4.5. So there's been a substantial loss of transactions. If the interest rates remain in the 5.5 to 6.5 range, probably we're not going to see a big change in the market. But that has nothing to do with the activities, the mindset, the growth of an agent that is working every day. If you're working, you have a smile on your face, your attitude is good, your skills are strong, it doesn't matter what happens to the market, it only matters what happens to you in your daily activities. So I think for a lot of our customers, it's going to be a very strong year. For a lot of people, which is normal, it's going to be a tough year.
Well, you used to always make a comment of no matter what the national number was, and in this case, 3.7 million, I remember you so often from stage saying, how many do you want of 3.7 million?
That's right.
And it was always interesting because it was this idea of simply saying the transactions are still out there. Go get the number that you want.
That's right. There's plenty to be had if you're working every day and doing your job at the highest level. The challenge, of course, as we've talked many times and with our good clients, is the inventory is still going to be a challenge in 2025. And that's because so many of the sellers are at 2.5 to 3% interest on a 30-year fixed loan, and they want to buy a new house, and their personal income has not increased as quickly as interest rates. As a result, their payments are much bigger than what they can afford. So that's not only stops a buyer from buying, but a seller from selling. So the good agents have to do a little bit more prospecting, as much as they hate to hear it. here's your Christmas present, start prospecting more. I know they hate to hear it, but they're going to have to do a little bit more of that type of work to maintain the level of transaction count they want.
So back to that four-letter word of work.
Yes, it works every time.
It does indeed.
Yeah.
2025 is a special year for Mike Ferry Organization.
Correct.
It is your 50th anniversary. 50 years, Mike.
Yes.
I know. Every time I say that to him, he kind of looks at me and goes, 50 years.
I don't know how it can be. I'm only 41 years old.
Well, think back to when you first started. Any memories or thoughts that you can share with everyone?
Well, we did one of the first Superstar retreats probably in year 5 or 6, okay? And the biggest challenge I had was finding agents, because I wanted to have a panel. And we had so many great agents operating. Debbie DeGroat, I'm trying to think of her counterpart in Huntington Beach. I can picture her plain as day. Calvin Goad from San Diego. You know, we had that wonderful guy from Calgary that you knew.
Oh,
Darn it, I can't think of his name. Well,
sorry, I can't either.
It was 45 years ago. I'm surprised I can remember
50.
what I was doing. But we had the hardest time finding 5 to 6 people who were making $100,000 a year.
$100,000 a year.
And now we have agents that make $100,000 a month, or as Sabrina said, we have agents that get a check for $100,000 on an expensive home that they've listed. So the biggest challenge was trying to expose people's minds to the fact that they could do substantially more than they've done in the past. And it was tough. That first 5 years doing retreats, I mean, here's the look I would get as I spoke to the people. But, you know, they kept listening and they kept trying. And today, of course, the world has changed in so many ways, but including the fact that agents today doing 50, 75, 100, 200 with the team, 400, 600, 800 transactions is very common. So a lot has changed, but the building of a team, the building of an office, the building of personal production always requires a great attitude, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy, and a lot of skills. And that hasn't changed.
The skills. Interesting that you add that too, because in today's world, everybody, the magic answers that exist in today's world.
Scary.
It is.
Yeah.
So how do you find your way through that? What do you tell the agents that really don't want to work that hard?
Well, if you don't want to work that hard, go to somebody else's seminar that will support your not working hard. Because, you know, selling real estate is very, very simple. It's just not easy.
Yeah.
And we did a toy drive a few days ago, and we're doing another one in the next couple of days here in Las Vegas. And I tell the realtors, you know, you're going to make as much money as the effort you put in to make it happen. But if you don't have the skills to support it, nothing is going to happen to the degree that you want. So, you know, you have a choice. But Mike, I'm an independent contractor. Well, you'll be independently broke if you don't do something to make your own life a better life in terms of transaction count.
So it still comes down to the fact that if you want a better business, more money, a better life, you still have to work for it.
Yeah, every day. We still do.
We still do.
And when I think of 50 years of doing it, I'm tired.
So why do you keep going?
Well, you and I have discussed this. What would we do if we stopped?
Yeah.
You know, we have 11 grandchildren, and we love to spend time with them. And the oldest is, 28, 29, Trevor, and he's just a wonderful young man. And the youngest is Hayden, and she's cute as a wink. But, you know, Bob Summerall, our neighbor in Naples, used to say at Christmas time, the best lights at Christmas are the tail lights of the car when they leave the house.
Oh, Mike.
Well, you know, we're not going to be able to spend 12 hours a day with the grandchildren.
Well, and they all have their lives as well.
And they have families
that's quite
and lives.
True.
So I do this, A, because it's my job. Second, I do it because I enjoy it a lot. Third, we have a lot of customers all over the world that rely on what we do to keep them motivated to do what they have to do. So it's a very enjoyable experience and has been for us for 50 years.
Well, and it's interesting because every once in a while, as many of you may know, Mike will turn 80 in 2025. It will be
Yikes.
it will be the 50th anniversary of the company, and Mike has often been asked, how do you keep going? Well, for Mike, it really hasn't ever been an option. So he just keeps going.
Yep.
I have more people now come up to me and say, if Mike can do this, they can do it.
Yeah.
So I know you don't like to hear this, but you really are an inspiration to a lot of people. And you have changed a lot of people's lives. I know you don't like to hear that either because you say you're simply doing your job.
Correct.
But I am going to say to everyone in 2025, we have two big events that come up. One in January, which will be our production retreat in Palm Desert, California, and that's in January, the 21st through the 23rd.
And that is in the hotel where we did the original Superstar Retreats for 20 years.
Isn't that going to be fun?
And we haven't been back there for 20 years, so it is going to be fun.
It really will be. There'll be a lot of great things. And then, of course, in July, the Superstar Retreat, which will be at the Venetian Palazzo in July, again, the 21st through the 25th of July. And we are inviting everyone who had ever been to one of Mike's seminars, to anything that Mike had ever taught, that you feel that Mike made a difference in your life. We invite you to come back and join us for either of those two events. We have special rates for alumni, and we're excited to see so many of you. It's the end of the year, and there's always one message. What would your message be to everybody to end this year?
Have a fun, safe, enjoyable holiday season.
And I would agree. So from both Mike and I, we wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays if you don't celebrate Christmas, and let's make 2025 the best year ever. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for watching.